Welcome, everybody. Really welcome. I'm glad to see you here. I see familiar names, and not everybody I've been seeing the faces, but it's good to see day after day this week the names showing up again. So for this session, we have Raj. And Raj was introduced to us in March, I think, when you came to Miami, right, Raj?
Yeah.
In 2016, Raj was a data scientist at a hot Silicon Valley startup with a comfortable six-figure salary, status that comes from success in a sexy field, and only a mild sense of midlife dissatisfaction. Something was going on. Then his partner, his then wife for 8 years, came out as a transgender. And seeing his partner find joy in its true self was what forced Raj to ask the question, what do I need to change in my life to feel true to myself? And here we are today as a personal branding photographer. He helps coaches, consultants, speakers to find and convey their multifaceted, vibrant stories on camera. Raj's mission is to help people feel safe to express themselves fully as human beings and build a genuine, lasting connection with their own audiences. So thank you, Raj, for accepting the invitation. Thank you for your time being here with us. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Velasca, and welcome everyone to this session. Today, we're going to talk about how your story is your personal brand. Now, personal branding can be a challenge for a lot of people, but specifically, if you're a coach or a consultant, you really have to stand out among to your audience and know, like, what exactly is it that you want to be known for? So I believe that your story is a powerful way to convey that. So before we go further, let's talk about what is a story. One of my favorite books on storytelling is Stories That Stick by Kindra Hall. And she describes a story as having a simple story as having a three-part structure. There is a character who is in a normal, living their life. And then suddenly there's some kind of explosion or a massive change that happens. I like to call it transformation because it may not always be explosive, but that transformation leads them to a new normal, something that they've learned from their journey, where they're now in a new state. So I want to illustrate this with a story of one of my clients. Now, I want you to pay attention to the story. But while you're listening to the story, I also want you to look at the photo that I have attached to each of those three parts of the story and how that connects. So this is my client, Sophia, who was a startup founder, serial startup and entrepreneur, Forbes 30 under 30 awardee. But in her late 20s, she was feeling burned out. She was feeling lost, despite all of the success that she had acquired in her life. Even though she was surrounded by tech and books and all kinds of things, she just didn't feel like she was really there. And then she took some time off to focus on herself. She reconnected with some things that she loved as a child, like her art, went back to drawing. Her goal was to find internal validation rather than external. And then today, she is a business and life coach for women entrepreneurs. She helps her clients build kick-ass businesses while maintaining work-life balance. So, as you can see, Sophia's story is an important part of how she connects with her clients, because her clients are often in that earlier stage of her journey, where they're successful entrepreneurs, but they are burned out and they're lost, and she helps them with that transformation. So her story is actually the basis of her personal brand. And as you can see with these photos, having a range of photos to tell her story helps her communicate with her clients as to why she's the right person for them to work with. So now that I'm talking about personal brand, what is a personal brand? I've seen a couple of popular definitions. In fact, this month's Harvard Business Review has the cover article is on personal branding. And it defines personal branding as an intentional strategic practice in which you define and express your own value proposition. Jeff Bezos has a famous line that says, your personal brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. Now, these are good definitions, but I find them a little bit lacking, especially for those of us like, y'all who are coaches, me as a photographer, who are serving customers or clients, who are in the business of service. The definition I like to follow is that your personal brand is the relationship that you create with your ideal client. Focus on relationship, focus on ideal client. So what does that relationship entail? There are three big components to your personal brand. First is, what are you communicating in your brand? This includes your story, your mission, your values, your value proposition, ideal client, your reputation, testimonials, everything that you have to say is part of your brand. The second thing, where are you saying it? What is the channel that you're using? And that can depend on your own, that's very personal to your business or brand. You can use social media, books, blog, network. You can be an author, a speaker. Yeah, most of us have websites. You can be speaking on podcasts. And then the third component is, how do you say it? What's the medium that you're using? There are all kinds of media available now: audio, video, long video, short video, copy, everything, images, photos, of course. So all of these components go into creating that relationship with the ideal client, your personal brand. Now, as a photographer, I'm working on a small part of the how, which is helping my clients express themselves through photos. But in order to do that effectively, I need to get in and understand what they want to say and where they want to say it. So, do I really need photos, or do you really need photos in your brand? Of course, yeah, I know the answer I'm supposed to say is yes, because I'm a photographer and everyone needs lots of photos and you need to hire me to do it. But instead, what I'm going to give you is a couple of pieces of information. We are visual machines. Our brains work visually. On an average, it takes 13 milliseconds, a very short amount of time, for the human brain to process an image. Images are the fastest way to capture attention. You can ask somebody to read some text. You can ask someone to watch a video. Those can provide a lot of information, but you're still asking them to commit some amount of time, maybe a few seconds, a minute, to read or watch that. Whereas an image immediately gets your attention, which is why you see still the biggest brands in the world still spending millions of dollars on billboards with images. The second thing I want you to think about is that a single image can only show one part of you, a small facet of who you are. So a single headshot is not necessarily going to, make or break your brand. However, having a collection of photos that show different sides of who you are and share them across different media, or your website, social media, wherever, podcasts, wherever you can share images, can gradually give your audience a clear idea of who you are as a person. That is the power of images. Now, quick show of hands, how many of you are uncomfortable being on camera? Quite a few people. And that is very, very, very common. In fact, most of my clients, when they come to me, they are somewhere on the scale of cameras being photographed is somewhat annoying to absolutely terrifying. That's the range that I typically work with. So why? What is that? I have found when I talk to clients and they express their various kinds of discomfort with camera, it falls into roughly 4 categories of what I call as limiting beliefs. The first is around self-worth and imposter syndrome. Sometimes being uncomfortable in front of camera is an expression of, I don't know if I'm the right person to do this work. And I don't want to know if I'm ready to be seen doing this work. So it can be a deeper reflection, a reflection of some deeper insecurity. The second set of limiting beliefs are around social pressures and perfectionism. Perfectionism has always been an issue we often take on, a thing we often take on. And then recently, in the last 10 years, Instagram has really enforced an aesthetic of perfectionism in photography. Every time you go on Instagram and see these perfect looking people, you feel like everything has to be perfect for you to show up on social media or in public, in pictures. Your hair has to be perfect, your clothes, your kids, your body, your dog, everything needs to look perfect. Otherwise, you're not supposed to put yourself out there. The third category is about physical and psychological safety. Many of my clients talk about uncomfortable experiences they've had with photography and photographers in the past, where they didn't feel quite supported or seen in the way they wanted. And that leads to a feeling of that it's not very safe for myself to put myself out there. And then the fourth set of limiting beliefs are around freedom or self-expression. Sometimes we feel like, oh, I love wearing colorful outfits, but if I'm going to do professional photos, I have to wear this brown gray suit. I have to take off all my jewelry because that's not appropriate and professional. So those are beliefs that make you constrain who you are. And when you constrain yourself in life or in front of a camera, you're not going to be able to express yourself fully. And that shows up in your photos. So many of you are coaches. So I have to point this out. You probably encounter these similar limiting beliefs. You may have encountered them in yourself. You probably encountered them in your clients. And I imagine that all of you have some technique or another to address some of those beliefs for your clients. So as a further exercise, maybe turn that lens on yourself and see, when you have insecurities around photography come up, what exactly is happening there? Now, you may have also seen this as a coach. Clients come to you for one thing they think they need, but they get something completely different. They have some kind of transformation. This is something I see in my work all the time. Clients often come to me for beautiful photos, but in the process of getting those photos, they have to learn to overcome some of those limiting beliefs and express themselves. And that it leads to a transformation that can last a lifetime. That's why I do this work, because that's the part of my work that I find the most meaningful. I imagine that as coaches, you also probably relate to that because when you create the transformation in your clients. But I want you to think about, as a reflection, why do you do the work that you do? Why are you so excited about being a coach? Now, we talked about the limiting beliefs, so how do we overcome them? In this short talk, we're not going to be able to do all of that, but I'm going to give you a few things to remember that might help you shift your mindset around those limiting beliefs. The first thing I want you to remember is your clients want to hear your message, and they want to hear it from you specifically. That's why they are coming to you. So if you are tempted to believe, or if you have a mental script that goes, I only want to share my message or my techniques or my expertise, I don't want to be in the forefront, I want to hide, you can't. This is your personal brand. Your clients want to work with you. They need to see you. The second thing I want you to remember here is looks are a vanity metric. Your clients are not coming to you because you look perfect or you look like a supermodel. They're coming to you for something else. They want to see three things in you. Empathy, they want to know that you get them, you understand them. Connection, they want to know that you care about them, that you want to get to know them. And authority, they want to know that you have the knowledge, the skills, the expertise to help them solve a problem that they are struggling with. So when you're creating your personal brand, whether through photography, whether through copy or design or anything else, instead of obsessing over, does this look perfect? Or is this, whatever, what's the, have I picked the right font or the color or whatever? Think about what are the emotions that I'm creating in my ideal audience when they see my brand? Am I conveying these three things effectively? So how do we convey all of these things in a brand? I have one answer for that I love to use, and that is storytelling. So let's talk about telling stories through photos and how that works. So there are 5 kinds of stories that I normally work through with my clients. The first 2 that I'm going to go through are the most relevant that I find for coaches, but the remaining are also interesting, and you might be able to draw from elements of those. The first kind is your founder story or your personal journey. We already saw an example of Sophia, the business coach, with her 3-part journey. This is Kat, who is a coach and a speaker. Sometime in her mid-60s during the pandemic, she realized that she wanted a new life. She just did, she was supposed to retire. She was already in her, 65 or something, but she didn't want to. And so she went through this transformation journey where she wanted to figure out a new career for herself, but that also took her on a different physical journey where she moved from Northern California to Guadalajara, Mexico, and found, decided to buy a house and create this beautiful community there. And today she's a professional speaker and a coach, teaching people how to create a new life when others don't expect them to. So this is an example of how a personal journey can be very relevant when there are clients of Cats who are struggling with those similar problems, when they're thinking about retiring or creating a new life for themselves in a later age. They know that this is a person who's gone through that. Her story is a clear expression of empathy and connection. The second kind that is very, very relevant for coaches is your client's journey. So this is Rebecca. She's an executive coach. When her client first comes to her, she often works with very successful women who are very, very burned out, or typically executives at big corporations. When her clients first come to her, they're often tight. They often are blocked. Even when they hold things, their fingers look tight. And then she listens to them, she takes them through some breathing exercises, and then she has a lot of exercises around releasing emotion. Whether it's crying or expressing anger, one thing she does is encourage them to punch pillows to express anger, or even throw a tantrum on the floor. And then when they've calmed down a bit, she might ask them to journal something. So there are all these exercises that she takes clients through, after which they find themselves in a much more relaxed state when they can figure out their solutions to their problems and change their life to something more healthy and relaxed. Now, what I wanted to see in these photos are pretty much all Rebecca herself, but she is kind of embodying the journey that she takes her client through. So she's showing some of the exercises that she does with her clients, including the tantrum throwing or the punching the pillow or the breathing and the dancing and all of that. So this can be a very powerful way, taking your ideal client or a favorite client you worked with and thinking about what is the journey I have taken them through and how have I done it? What are the things I have used to facilitate that journey? That can be a very powerful way for coaches to create their brand. Because one of the questions I find that coaches often tell me is that, when I'm talking to my clients, I tell them I'm a life coach or a relationship coach or an executive coach. They often ask me, okay, what do you actually do? So that this kind of photographic storytelling often addresses that particular challenge. I'm going to go through a little bit quickly through the other three types, because I find that I don't use them that often with coaches, but you might find elements of that relevant. So if you are also an author or a speaker, your speech or book has a lot of things that we can use for photos. We can take messages or ideas that are already there in the speech. If there are stories or an overall arc of your speech or book, we can use that to tell the story and get pictures that are aligned with your speech or your book. A day in the life kind of photo shoot can be fun and interesting, particularly for somebody who wants to humanize themselves. So AJMA is a very, very high-level successful corporate tech executive and an angel investor, but she's also passionate about helping young Black professionals succeed in her field. And one of the problems she experiences or challenges she told me was that these young Black professionals are a bit intimidated to talk to her because they see her as very, very successful, a little bit unapproachable. Normally, they saw her that way. So we decided to do a day in the life shoot, which kind of makes her be a little more human. It's like, oh yeah, look, I'm a person. I get up in the morning and drink coffee and write my journal and I hang out and do my work. And so it's a way to sort of build a more human connection when people might find you a little bit intimidating for some reason. And then the fifth one, Liz, is an event planner, and she wants to coach other event planners. What she decided to do was to showcase the emotional journey that she goes through while organizing a major event, and also some of the tools and techniques that she uses. So it started with she wanted to show some of the stress, some of the joy, and then eventually leading to the pride and joy that she feels at the end when celebrating a successful event. So the reason that I love picking a story and using that to structure a photo shoot is that then you don't have the experience where you go into a photo shoot and the photographer is like, all right, stand against that wall, smile, sit down there, smile. You don't have that kind of experience. You have a structure, a plan for what are you actually going to say in your shoot. And then for a fact that those photos you're going to get are aligned with a real story from your brand or your life, so you can use them in different ways. You can share those photos with different captions or different parts and convey different sides of yourself. So let's go into some practical tips here. You're a coach or a consultant. Let me tell you a few things you need to know to plan a shoot. First question you might have is, what kinds of photos do I need? So I typically go for 4 different categories of photos. This is a client of mine who is a holistic health coach, and especially focusing on women who have osteoporosis or similar conditions. So the 4 kinds of photos that I did with her, first, what I call the official headshot, even though that doesn't mean that you have to wear a suit. It's just a shot of your face, that you can use on LinkedIn or something like that. The second one that I think of as a must-have are shots showing your process or your lifestyle. What are you actually taking your clients through? So in this client's case, she has a lot of emphasis on exercise. So we decided to do some shots with her working out with her trainer. And then a couple of nice to have categories, what I call candid headshots, which are still shots of your face, but with different emotions, making them fun. This is a model skeleton that she uses to teach about bone structure and bone health. And so we decided to incorporate the skeleton in her headshot here. And then the fourth one that I love doing, if there are other people that the client can bring in, are showing how you interact with your clients. So this client, she, as part of her bone health practice, she works with clients and teaches them how to cook healthy meals. Sometimes she has in-person cooking classes. So she basically decided to invite some of her friends in her home and do a model cooking class that I took pictures of. Now, as you can see, most of her clients are older women because that's typically the population that has osteoporosis issues. So the people that she invited for the shoot were also, clearly in that category. Outfits. Outfits are a way to tell your story. They can showcase who you currently are, but they can also showcase or let you play with who you want to be. So this client, Ty, is a very successful exec at LinkedIn and senior exec. And when I did her shoot, she was like, I've spent my life being very successful wearing these gray suits, but I come from a very colorful culture. And I would really like to try something from that because that's what I want to be in the future. But I've never really taken pictures of that in public before. So like, well, get your suits, but then get a dress or two and see what happens. Let's see what happens. So she brought this dress that she'd never really worn in public. And we were out on the streets of New York around Central Park and took this picture against a wall and she rocked it. And the interesting thing is, if you look at her Instagram, you can see a clear difference before and after the shoot in her aesthetic, because now she's completely embraced those bright colors in her life and her brand. Props are a powerful way to tell your story. Anything can be a prop, anything that's meaningful to your story. This client, Gina, is a leadership coach and consultant. And for her, Maya Angelou is a huge, huge inspiration, both in her life and her work. So she brought this book and we decided to incorporate it into the photo shoot. Props can make your session very, very unique and very, very personal because nobody else has those exact props that you do. And then locations are also a way to tell your story. This client, Shantae, she's a sustainability consultant. And for her, we did the shoot outdoors in New York. Having the bridge in the background was a very, very important symbol of both transportation and connection. And so that was very meaningful for her. So that's a way that location can be a part of expressing the story you want to tell. So I'm going to share this deck to all the people who attended, and you're going to see some examples of how clients have used photos in their website, social media, and so on. So I encourage you to take a look at that so you can get some ideas for how your photos can be used to tell your story, and then story can be a big part of your brand. So almost at the end of this talk, I'm going to send out a free storytelling guide with those 5 story types that I sent to you, that I just described, and it'll help you kind of flesh out what might be your story type. And then I have a QR code here. I'll leave it up for a few minutes. I'd encourage you to use that, and you might get a free 30-minute brand audit session with me. All right, so that's the end of my presentation. I would love to take some questions.
Thank you very much. That is amazing, Raj. It's a whole new perspective about photos, professional photos.
Thanks.
I'm excited about the presentation. It really has opened my eyes to a lot of things. And I'll share a story quickly with you. Mm-hmm. I had a young lady that I was working with as a coach. So I do the 30 under 30 in Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. And this young lady, I was working with her for a while. And in the end, she asked, "Hey, Dr. Cameron, can I get a reference from you?" But she wanted it in video form. Oh my God, I did about 100 takes. And at the end of it, I don't think I came out with anything. So that showed me. Now, I was on the stronger side, so to speak, as her coach. Then I ended up on the other side because she's a millennial and not really my target market, but I was working with her all this time. So when you're talking about, when you were sharing about your that journey at the beginning, it took me right back there because he said, "Come off camera," or "Come on camera. Why are you always hiding?" So that's me. So I turned on my camera because I wanted to say, okay, here I am showing myself, not being afraid of the camera. So it was really something that stood out for me.
That is amazing. So what when you did those 100 takes, like what was coming up for you each time a take didn't work? Like what kind of, did you relate to one of those 4 limiting beliefs?
Oh yes, it was one of my limiting beliefs because I'm a writer, an author. I've published many books, so I hide behind my writing. I'm never before the camera, really. So now with social media and all, now I stealthily am getting there. Little by little, I'm getting there. But I am usually a little bit hesitant still about putting myself out there.
That is, I hope you can, because you have such a great presence on camera. I think it is, you definitely should put yourself out there more. Yeah.
Don't mention anything about the suits, because I'm always wearing suits. So today I'm in this and I'm saying, oh my God, why am I wearing this? I don't usually wear nothing, but it's hot out. It's hot outside. And I decided just let me be. So I'll stay off camera. Then here I am showing myself.
Yay.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes. I'm
Yeah,
just going to make sure. Drop
okay.
a link. Yeah.
Okay. So you had mentioned, right, the importance of having photos, but at what stage in your coaching practice do you think it's important to invest in something like this, right? Because we all have like headshots, but they're maybe mediocre headshots. When does this really matter, in your opinion?
So I don't have a good answer for that will work for everyone. I think it's a personal decision, because there are so many ways you can express your brand and do marketing right now. So if you think your headshot is doing well enough for you, that and that, then it's fine. You can definitely use that. So all of these different tools, photography, video, copy, social media, I think of them as tools you can use to build your overall brand, but you get to pick which one is your way of doing it. They're all powerful in different ways. Now, if you choose to build your brand through, for example, through mostly networking, for example, like, networking, one-on-one connections, then that way, maybe photography is not going to make that much of a difference. Or if you're just getting clients through referrals a lot of the time, then maybe it's not the most important thing. However, if you are building your brand through putting yourself out there in any way, whether on social media or through podcasts or blogs or your website, then you probably want pictures. One thing I see is that I'll work with clients who, before they come with me, they are out there. They're on social media. They're speaking on podcasts. They're speaking on speaking gigs, and they use the same photo for everything. And that can seem a little bit like, okay, like, you're out there, we're seeing the same picture for all of them. So that's an indication probably that you want some variety in your photos and you want to invest in something like that. But if your brand is not very visible, or if that's not the way you're prioritizing building it, then maybe you can wait for a bit.
Raj, we have a few questions in the chat. One is, how do we connect with you if we are not in New York City? Do you recommend other photographers that you work with?
So I don't have anyone that I know who works exactly in my style. I mean, there are other good branding photographers out there whose style you should definitely check out and see if they resonate. But I do travel a lot, and I travel pretty frequently to San Francisco, between San Francisco and New York. And then earlier this year, I was in Miami to work with clients, and I intend to keep traveling. So reach out and we might be able to set something up at some point.
And I remember when we talked to you, you even mentioned that sometimes people get together and create a group, and then
if there are enough people in a location,
right?
If there are enough people in a location, then we can definitely talk about doing a group kind of thing or something like that. But yeah, it's all available.
The other question is very interesting. Christine Kisger is asking, can you talk about how trust is conveyed in an image? It seems that images that convey trust are important in brand building. I'm traveling so off camera today.
Yeah, that's a wonderful question, because that's something that trust is something I think about a lot in a brand. And there is something that is called the trust equation. And that basically says that trust is a combination of credibility, consistency or reliability, openness or vulnerability, and then a lack of self-orientation. And so these are like four big axes that trust, can be created with. Some people, and it's different for each person. Like I'm a person who, if somebody is open and vulnerable with me and they show that they are less interested in themselves and more interested in helping me, I trust them more. I'm not particularly necessarily impressed by credentials. But there are other people in the world who are very impressed by, and very, credentials and credibility markers inspire trust. For some people, consistency inspires trust, like doing something reliably again and again, and showing people that you do what you say. So I think like the way I've started thinking about trust is, what do you think is the most important thing your ideal client relies on to build trust with you? Is your ideal client somebody who looks at your degrees and credibility markers and they build trust with you? Or are they somebody who see that, oh, like I trust people who are more open and honest about their life, or transparent? Or I trust people more who have less of a self-orientation and more of a service orientation. So when you know that, we can also convey those things in an image. If they are more credibility-based people, then we are going to focus on showing you as more authoritative, showing your credentials more, showing your knowledge more in an image, even if it's through props and through your clothes and attitude. Whereas if they are they rely more on your being open and vulnerable, then we're going to show something more personal about you. So that's the way I think about trust, Christine.
Thank you.
Questions? Feel free to unmute. I would love to hear more questions. Or comments, or experience, or stories, any of that. All right, Nada, talk to you.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. It was really beautiful to see all the authentic expressions of all your clients and how you captured them in their essence. Because a lot of times photos look so cheesy and scripted. And they were in their natural, they're in either their home or they're on location, and they looked so happy, they looked so relaxed and so at ease. And it's hard to bring out that side of people, bring out that side of us in photos. And so I thought that was really beautiful and really nice.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm really glad you. Yeah. I'm really glad you brought that up. I think that's a big part of my process, though, to help create, getting to know the client's story is a big part of that, because once we are in the session, that story gives us a foundation, and a foundation we've agreed on what we are going to show in the photo. That's one thing. The second thing is, because it's a story that's already from your life, you already have lived through it. So it's not like you're trying to act some weird emotion that you've never expressed, or you're not sure how to express. It's like you can go back to those moments from your story and be like, okay, what did I feel that in that moment? Let me connect with that. And that automatically makes your photos a little more authentic. And then there's a lot that I do in terms of creating a safe space for people to relax. And that comes from my own training as a relationship coach, that I can bring in those tools to create safety and trust within the session and help clients feel more relaxed and embodied. But thank you for bringing that up. Thank you, Rosario. I'm glad you liked it. Ramat, are you there? You have interacted on LinkedIn a few times. We have never really talked, so I'm curious.
Yes, I am here. And actually, I was the one who asked the question of about how we work with you if we're not in New York City.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But I'm not too far away. I'm in Pennsylvania. So, I mean, that's not a huge distance.
Yeah. I've worked with a lot of clients where we've done shoots in a location in like Jersey City, Hoboken, and so on. And clients have driven from various parts of Pennsylvania. So that's totally doable.
Okay. Yes, I really love what you're saying, and it really resonates with me in terms of like the storytelling, because I'm a coach, and I have so many different parts of my story that I think people can resonate with, but how to piece it together, how to tell it, I'm still not good at it, even though I've tried many different ways. I imagine like a session would be an awesome way to kind of like just, lay out that kind of like story.
Yeah. It often helps you like the process will help you discover the story too. Like when we do the planning process for your shoot, because we'll go through these 5 stories, and there are other kinds of variants of that my clients they'll come up with. But it's basically like whatever story you come up with has to be authentic to you, and as long as it is that, and being able to discover that is a really powerful tool, because then that story becomes the basis of the rest of your brand too.
Yes, I absolutely. You and I are connected on LinkedIn, so I'm going to be in your inbox. I'm going to see what we can do to like make something happen.
Absolutely, please. Would love to chat.
Raj, I was thinking, the session with you is not just like getting the phone and scheduling a photo shooting session. How is the process?
Yeah. So the way I work is the first thing is to set up a get to know each other call, where I typically will describe my process, but the goal of that is for me to really get an idea of what your story is, what your goals are, and why are you doing the work that you're doing. Because that is that's the way your clients need to see some expression of that why, right? And so after we talk, and then for the clients who choose to work with me, the next step is to do what we call a mood board, which is, if you've ever done a vision board like exercise, it's similar. I have a particular take on it, but the idea is to figure out how you express your values intuitively in a visual way. And so that gives us a common kind of visual language to see, like, this is how you express your values. For example, pretty much everyone wants to look confident. But if you ask 10 different people, like, what confidence really looks like for them, you're going to get 10 different answers. So I want to see what your expression of confidence actually is. So we do the mood board, and then we do a planning session where we go over the mood board, and I ask you a lot of in-depth questions about it. And then we see like what kind of patterns emerge. Then we agree on the story that we're going to tell in the shoot. We agree on, we talk about outfits, props, locations, all of that stuff. And then we eventually do the photo shoot. The photo shoot typically is about 4 hours with an hour for makeup. And you get about 60, 70 photos at the end of it.
This sounds like a full-blown coaching.
Yeah,
it resonates much more with me, like coaching does. It sounds like coaching rather than just
that's what it ends up being. I have trouble owning that and calling myself a coach. But that's what it often ends up being, coaching. Sometimes it even veers into a little bit of therapy too. Because I do have experience as a sex and relationship coach, or training as and so I bring in some of that stuff too sometimes. But I hesitate to own that and be like, I'm also a coach. It's like, I'm a photographer, that's all. But I'm glad you called that out, Shakti.
Yeah, but absolutely, because this is a whole process, and I believe I'm thinking and discovering myself during the process of doing all this.
Yeah.
With you, it's amazing. Any other questions, comments?
All right.
Hi, I have one.
Yeah.
I know we're running out of time here, but it's nice to meet you. My name is Elisheva. I actually am a photographer here in the Seattle area. I just got finished with a hike, so talking about like going on camera. But anyway, I was at a Seattle open photo shoot session where models and photographers all get together, and I'm in the middle of one of those transitions that you're talking about, the career shift from the past 20 years of being in corporate America to putting my photography business on side. and I was telling someone that I want to get into helping people tell their story for their businesses, and they told me about you. And so I went on LinkedIn and found you. And then this was just last week, and then you had this course. So I just wanted to tell you, thank you so much for being out there and telling the story and helping people tell the story. And it's exactly what kind of came to me in my sleep. Like, people need help with this. A lot of people, they want to, and they need to establish their brands, but they really don't know where to start. So I really appreciate you also coaching those of us who are coming into like, oh, this is a cool arena. So
yeah, totally. Yeah. And if you want to, let's talk. Like I want other photographers to adopt these kinds of approaches and stuff. So let's I'm totally happy to chat.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been amazing.
Yeah. And I'm glad that there's somebody else who's talking about me. Wow. I have a brand.
Yeah. It was another photographer, and he's kind of shy and I'm not. And I said, come work with this model with me. And then I'm like, oh my goodness, your work is amazing. And then he asks like, what am I doing? And I'm like, I'm in the middle of figuring out, next steps. But anyway.
All right.
They were
thank you.
So thank you so much.
Wow, you just hyped me up. Thanks. Yay. I feel so good. Jeff, hi.
I just wanted to say thanks for the presentation.
You're welcome.
I'm trying to figure out my branding as well. I'm not quite there yet, but it's given me a lot to think about. So,
all right.
And I take it you went to Somatica.
I did. Did you?
Yeah. I saw your alumni post. That's why I ended up here.
All right. All right.
Always nice to meet somebody else.
Yeah.
Well, once again, thank you very much, Raj. That was amazing. I think you bring this whole photography, storytelling, coaching perspective all together. And the discovery process is amazing. Thank you
so
very much.
Thank you.